Welcome to Prison Professors. I am Michael Santos, and today I am really enthusiastic to introduce you to my friend, Kyle Singhal. He is a partner in the Washington, D.C. law firm of Hopwood Singhal, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his journey to becoming an attorney, the areas of practice that he specializes in, and we're just going to learn a little bit more about what steps we should be thinking about if we're coming into the criminal justice system, or if we really don't like the outcome that we have. So Kyle, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend time with our audience. Could you tell us a little bit about what it was that got you excited about studying law?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Michael. Happy to be here and to be a part of your programming. I'll give you a two-part answer to that. First is what got me to law school, I suppose, and then what got me to being a lawyer. I must have told 100 people or more when I was in law school that, I'm not going to actually be a lawyer. I just wanted to see what law school was like. And then, sure enough, many years down the road, I loved practicing law. But what got me into law school in the first place, I just happened to be tutoring people for the test that gets you into law school. I was teaching a number of these tests. And so the law school admission test was just kind of fun. I enjoyed the puzzles and arguments that it had on it. And I tutored folks for about 2 years before I decided to go to law school myself. And so law school won out over the other options. At the time, I was thinking about business school and other things because I had sent numerous good people off to law school. And I also happened to be working for a great lawyer in Texas who had a little shop, and I learned a lot about how the law worked there. And I would have to mention, although he wasn't a direct influence, there's a third source, which is my uncle, Kyle Singhal, is now a federal judge and was then a state judge in Florida. I think in the back of my mind, since childhood, I knew that he was this great lawyer. He had a very prominent career as a criminal defense attorney before he became a judge. And so all those sources together probably played some role in my decision to go to law school. But once I got there, I just thought I would keep running my little tutoring shop and do that until I participated in the law school experience. And it was really the experiences I had in law school that sold me on a career in the practice of law.
So that's really interesting, and I think it's important for me to point out, as you and I have discussed, but some people on our YouTube channel don't know this. One of the missions of Prison Professors is to teach and inspire people who are serving time in prison. And you just gave me an idea that I'd like that people in prison to consider. You said that you'd built a career teaching other people how to take tests.
Yes.
And I know that's a big industry out here because people are going to invest time in building a career, and their ability to score well on a test really influences their ability to get into the right law schools. And I hope I'm not going to be prying, but if it's not an inappropriate question, could you tell us a little bit about the market for that? Because somebody doesn't have to be a lawyer, as you just described, to teach somebody how to score well on a test. So if somebody's serving a 10-year sentence in prison, they could invest 10,000 hours to master tests and then build a business teaching people how to take tests. What is the market for a business like that?
It's pretty good. And I think that would be such a fabulous direction for someone to go in. If someone were to get out of prison and take the test and score well, it's quite feasible that they could earn $100 an hour or more. Of course, they would need to both score well on the test and be a good teacher. Just because, for example, someone speaks English doesn't mean they can teach it. Likewise, like you said, they'd have to spend really that 10,000 hours mastering the test and how to teach it. But it's not uncommon for someone to make $100, $200, or even $300 an hour after they've had some thousands of hours teaching the test. So it's a good market. It's not saturated yet with tutors. I still get calls all the time that I can't handle, and I really don't have good people in Washington to refer them to. I've got people elsewhere, but people, are still looking for a personal connection, someone they can see in person as opposed to do it online. And so that's something that I don't think the market's going to go away for, even if the test is online. People like to have an in-person teacher.
There's no shortage of income opportunities, there's really just a shortage of ideas. And if you're sitting inside of a jail or a prison, or you're going into the system and you're worried about how you're going to earn an income, you've just got to keep your eyes open. And we just heard a phenomenal idea from something that Kyle did before he was a lawyer that anybody can do if you are willing to put in the work. Now, Kyle, I know that you're not teaching tests anymore. You're a very successful attorney that has a unique specialty, and you're partners with our former co-founder, Shon Hopwood of Prison Professors. Tell us a little bit about how you met Shon and why you guys started working together.
Well, I'll tell you, I do still teach a little bit aside from the legal practice, Michael. I do a little bit of LSAT just for referrals if there's a need. I do a little bit of bar exam tutoring, but that's almost entirely for folks who are retaking the exam. So if someone has failed the bar exam and they need a second try, I do a little bit of that. And I do some law teaching. And so, for example, I have co-taught a course on constitutional law at the University of Louisville's Law School. And I teach a bar exam support class at the George Washington University School of Law as well, which is where I went to law school. So I do a fair bit of ancillary teaching on the side still.
Let me ask you a question on that subject before we get to your partnership with Shon. How do you market that type of work? Because yesterday I did a video for people in prison teaching them how I market, what I do, the brochures that I create, the websites that I create, the campaigns that I create. Maybe you could help us understand, if somebody wanted to hire you, how would they find you? Is it word of mouth or you do work?
I have been almost too fortunate in that that work comes to me. It's been all word of mouth. I haven't had to do any marketing for LSAT, bar exam, or this ancillary teaching really in 8 or 9 years. So I always get more calls than I can handle, and I try to allocate my time in whatever manner is going to produce the best results for the most people. I think maybe that's not even the right way to say it. I prefer to work with fewer clients the more if I can help someone to solve a big problem, whether that's a legal problem or something else. I enjoy solving big, hard problems, not necessarily more problems, but I think I get calls for one thing or another at least every week, if not every day. And the challenge is figuring out what to say no to. And I think once you've established yourself in any field, and this is especially for those who are looking to establish themselves, pick 2 or 3 ventures and once you get and figure out what you like and what you're the best at and what you can do the most good with. And once you're busy enough with that, then you can let the other sources of income go.
I think that's great advice, and I really appreciate you dispensing it. We're going to be more than 100,000 people get to watch this program inside of jails and prisons, and I think that they'll get inspired by that message. But the salient point, the real key point, is you've got to invest the time and the energy. And if you're in a jail or a prison, you could always be developing your skill set with regard to how well you can string words and sentences together and turn them into paragraphs and into pages, and then develop your critical thinking skills. And that's what Kyle's partner, Shon, did so well. And we'll feature him on this program, that while Shon was in prison, he became an expert in the law. And when did you two start working together, and how did you guys meet?
Yeah, well, so we met, we'll start with, since that came first, when he was coming to Washington to clerk in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals for Judge Brown. And he had recently gotten his clerkship and had moved out at that point to Virginia. And I just sent him an email, and I told him that I appreciated his story and asked him if he'd like to meet for a drink, and he said yes. And so we met, and we quickly became friends, and we stayed in touch. And then a few years later, I was clerking, and in fact, I clerked for 2 judges, both on the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals in Louisville, Kentucky. And as I was wrapping up my clerkship, we had discussed opportunities to work together, and we began working together. And it's been fabulous.
So interesting. You say that you clerked for 2 6th Circuit Court of Appeals judges. In what way did the experience that you received as a clerk for appellate court judges influence or help you prepare for the career that you're leading now?
Oh, I think that it was absolutely instrumental. There's no way that I would be able to provide the value that I provide on the appellate teams I've been a part of without the clerkship experiences. And I think both of them were instrumental in that. First, I clerked for a judge who had been on the bench for 30 years, and he was very knowledgeable. He had protocols and procedures, and he had experience that he could draw on when he saw a case. He could recall, look at this case from 1988, or look at this case from 1995. And so that was very useful. And then I clerked for a second judge who was brand new, and the experience of helping him figure out what should be the protocols and procedures and how to approach a case was very useful. And so all of that together helped me build a strategy for approaching a case. And I think how I approached cases to decide them, or not to decide them, but to decide how to write my memos that I would write when I was clerking, inform how I approach a case now, and how I do the research, how I review usually the lower court's decisions and rulings, and how I articulate arguments to produce favorable results.